Hey, this is Pete A. Turner, host of the Break It Down Show. Today, John sits down with Jeff Trager. He's a dear friend of ours who's been on the show several times. It's mostly because every time we talk to him, he brings up crazy stories from his rock and roll past. He used to make his living as an independent radio promoter back when listeners could count on their favorite DJs to play what was new and hot. Those DJs counted on guys like Jeff to test the new acts and bring them songs that would light up the airwaves. With the corporatization of terrestrial radio, that's a bygone era. Back then, Jeff broke songs by the Eagles, Cameo, Confunction, Linda Ronstadt, and the Rolling Stones, just to name a few. And Tina Turner famously said that she and Ike were playing bowling alleys before they met Jeff. Today, Jeff puts his influence on us by promoting live events in the Bay Area. You can and you should catch everything he's doing at JeffTragerPresents.com. You can count on those shows throughout the Bay Area to be great. So here's our guest, purveyor of a good time, the curator of the party, and our friend, Jeff Trager.
Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Proops.
This is Jordan Harbinger.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan
This is
East.
Sebastian Younger.
This is Rick Marotta.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summers.
Hey, this is Skunk Baxter.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is Jon Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
This is Jeff Trager, and you're listening to the Break It Down Show, Part 4.
And now, the Break It Down Show with Jon Leon Guerrero and Pete A. Turner.
Is it part 4?
I want to dedicate this to Nico.
Okay, we're going to dedicate this to
Because the first thing you said was, you ought to come over here more often.
Yeah.
Oh, no, you said, this is my son, Nico. Hi, Nico. How you doing?
Yeah. And now?
So he's moved.
He has set sail and moved to Hawaii. But let me give our listeners an intro because this is part 4. Jeff Trager has been on the show before, but if you're new to the show and you haven't heard of Jeff Trager is a promoter of entertainment products. He is a guy who's been in the music business for a long, long time, and he knows everybody. He broke some very large acts on the radio that you would know and made them very famous. And now is here in Vallejo, California, promoting places around here and entertainment acts in this area and bringing quality entertainment to these communities that surround us here. And we're thankful for it. One of the things that he's doing is promoting the, what's the name of that theater in Fairfield?
Downtown Theater.
The Downtown Theater. You're also promoting acts in other venues all around the area.
At the DeVille.
And they're all good.
And Vino Godfather.
Mm-hmm.
And
Sticky Rice. Yeah. Good places and great acts.
I used to do Chi-Am.
Did you do Chi-Am, really? What were you putting in there?
I had solo acts I'd put in there. Because I do solo acts at Manka's.
Okay.
And I just got asked. Well, I've been doing the Juneteenth festival in Vallejo. This is my 4th year.
Okay.
So that's been great. And then I've been doing the last 2 years. This will be my 3rd year at the Waterfront Festival.
All right. Well, that's good. I'm glad that everybody's recognizing that you have a special set of skills for doing things around here and bringing quality entertainment to the events that we do.
And I'm doing the Vallejo Solano County Fair.
Really?
Yeah, I just got asked to do
coming back.
The small stage.
Okay.
And he said, we'll see what you can do. And maybe...
Oh, for crying out loud. We'll see what you can do.
No, it's okay.
Yeah. Well, that's how it works. But it's funny that it works that way.
Yeah. Well, my roommate actually used to do the shows there.
Yeah?
And he used to bring in spinners.
Who's that?
Scott Foster.
Oh, I didn't know Scott Foster was your roommate.
Well,
Scott Foster.
I'm living with Scott.
Okay, listen. You know how much we admire your work. But Scott Foster... he's brought some great acts to Vallejo.
James Brown,
Shaka Khan, the Isley Brothers,
Spinners.
The Time, Smash Mouth,
Tower of Power
many times. He's done a great job at the fair.
Yeah, and it's funny because he came to one of my shows up at Green Valley Country Club that I was putting on, and I had the.
Have you guys known each other for a long time?
No, a friend of mine, Rich Friedman, who writes for the Times Herald. And he came to the show and he brought Scott. And I looked out there and I says, man, it looks like Martin Scorsese. So I introduced him. I said, we've got a special guest here, Martin Scorsese. And so anyway, that's who I'm living with at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if Scott hears this podcast, he's going to go, I don't know this guy. He doesn't know me. But his reputation precedes him.
Oh, yeah. You should see the pictures on the wall in his hallway.
Oh,
It's unbelievable. Ronnie Wood, Stevie Nicks, Martina McBride, Morris Day.
Yeah. Well, the acts he brought to Vallejo for the fair here, there was a stretch that he had the reins at the county fair. And that for that stretch of however many years it was a handful of years, maybe 5 or 6 years. We had, James Brown, for crying out loud.
I know.
You know, there were the Isley Brothers pretty much shut down the freeway. You know, you couldn't get in and out of Vallejo because the Isley Brothers were here. You couldn't get in and out of Vallejo because James Brown was in town. He'd throw those events for bringing the community together, and the community came.
Yeah.
So.
Because, it's funny because I worked with the Isleys when I first started in the record business.
Huh.
It's Your Thing.
Yeah.
And then I worked with James for a number of years.
Did you break It's Your Thing in the Bay Area?
No. That was a hit.
Okay.
I get credit for a little more than I do because it's the artists that really do the music, and I don't play an instrument. What I do is try to get it on the radio and try to do promotions to
expose an artist to their audience.
Expose an artist.
Yeah.
And it's. When I say broken art, an act, it's really important. I mean, if you're not on the radio, of course, you're never really going to have a hit. But I'd come up with promotions, and it's like having a good ball team. Like Bill Walsh was a great coach. But if he didn't have the horses, see, I always have the great artists, man. So I walked in radio stations, and you
had the goods.
I always had the goods.
So. Well, but there's an art to that as well.
Yeah, but I listen to everything. See, and I listen to both sides of singles. Sometimes I'd find on a B side, and I'd find a track that the label was working the other side.
Yeah,
and that happened a bunch of times with Vince Guaraldi's. They flipped over the side, and there was "Cast Your Fate to the Wind." And it's just. That's the way it is,
that happens sometimes.
A lot of good music out there. Radio stations,
sometimes overlook.
Well, labels go. They pick an A side.
Yeah,
and
every once in a while,
but there's always a B side.
Yeah,
and you got to listen to that. There's been some great B sides. And that's why I listen to everything.
Just so our audience has some context, because there are a lot of listeners out there who are going, man, our younger listeners are like, I don't know what B-side is. Thank goodness vinyl's coming back, and they will get a sense of that. But there's a whole generation. The term B-side is kind of lost on them. So whether you promoted the B-side or not, I just want to give our audience some context. What can you think of B-side songs that became classics that we look back on and go, that was a B-side?
Jesus, there's been a whole lot. B-side is a B-side of a 45.
Right.
So, there's been quite a few. I'm just trying to think.
I'll give you an example. Erotic City by Prince was the B-side of Let's Go Crazy. So the radio stations got Let's Go Crazy, and Warner Brothers promoted the mess out of that single.
Yeah.
And when they flipped it over, they got Erotic City, and Erotic City became a dance club classic because it's a great song. It just happened to be on the B-side.
Well, there's a lot of great tracks on albums, and you can only pick one. So it's one at a time, and they got to put a B-side on.
Right, so you got to pick another one.
When you sell it, yeah, because when it was for sale, you had to have a B-side.
Had to have something back there.
Yeah, so there was a lot of great songs on the back of like that the Guaraldi thing was, that made him, and then he went on to do the stuff with Charles Schultz and Peanuts.
Yeah.
But he was great. I mean, this guy could really play piano, and he just had a really great style about him. We used to go down to the Matador and listen to him on Broadway Street, San Francisco.
Wow.
You go down there, you see guys like Stan Getz and Sergio Mendes in Brazil 65, which was the first
iteration of the
band. Before Herb Alpert signed him. And you see Jack Sheldon and Bobby DeRoe. Bobby DeRoe was great. Mose Allison, people like that. God, it was great. And it was only about 100-seater.
Wow.
You just walk in there and it was just, there'd be, I don't know, 70, 80 people and just the greatest talent in the world, up there. Gabor Szabo used to play there a lot. And, Gabor wrote Gypsy 66, which Carlos found and recorded as the second half of Black Magic Woman.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And Gabor told me, man, I never made so much money in my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you see a scene like that emerging again? Is there a resurgence of love for live music that creates a scene like that again? I mean, because right now you can go to a number of live venues, around the Bay Area, but we're special compared to the rest of the country. And there was a time when, there were different drivers in music, and specifically that people had to tour a record. It used to be you had to play live so that people would get exposed to you and then they'd buy your record. And nowadays, it seems like, the record business struggled and acts had to get good at playing live again. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, well, that's what it should be.
Right. I mean, it was a correction.
Yeah.
I just want to know if my sense that the correction's happening is something you're seeing.
You
as
can
well.
go down to the lounge in, next door to the Empress on a Wednesday night.
Yeah.
And you can listen to some great jazz groups, great talent down there.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see that, it's a nice small thing. Even it's the place in Fairfield, Sticky Rice. Boy, there's some great groups.
There's some great acts in there, and they got great food, and it's just a great place to take a date. And I feel like we're getting back to a time where you can take your lady out and go see some good music and have some great food and drink some really good wine.
And dance if you want.
And dance if you want. And, pretty much dance because you have to, because the bands are going to make you shake it.
Oh, yeah.
And let's face it, fellas, your lady likes to dance.
Well, the ladies,
she may be pretending like she doesn't.
They don't even need us, man. They get up and dance with
together.
Themselves. Yeah. But I had Tony Lindsay from Santana, lead singer. He came in, a girl named Janice Maxie Reed, who worked with Lionel Richie and Stevie Wonder, and she comes out. Carlos Reyes comes in there and plays, and there's so many bands that want to play there because it's such a great atmosphere.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
It is a really nice place, and it's really nice when the weather's nice because they got that outdoor seating situation.
Well, I do jazz on Sunday afternoons there. Yeah. So.
And you get guys like Herman up there and.
Herman Wilson. Yeah. Herman Wilson, Suspects of Soul.
Yeah. Jason Stewart, Stacy Starkweather.
What's his face? D.W. Edwards and Lighting Up the Soul. And you get good bands through there, and they bug the heck out of me wanting to play. Why can't I play more? I said, well, I got a lot of bands that want to, I want to keep it fresh.
Yeah, you got to move around.
I have Dalt Williams from Vallejo plays the first week of every month. Okay.
That guy's been good for many, many decades.
Yeah. And, he used to bring in Bobby Simmons, God rest his soul. And, Bobby just passed away. And he has Marcella Hooks. She comes in, she sings. And it's just a great atmosphere. It makes people feel good when you have good music like that.
Yeah.
Makes your meal taste better.
That's true. Absolutely. Makes your meal taste better, makes your wine taste better, makes you a little drunker. We had a tough week in music this week. We just lost Dick Dale yesterday.
Dick Dale, yeah.
We lost Hal Blaine. Oh, man, that was a crushing blow. I loved Hal Blaine.
Hal Blaine.
Still love Hal Blaine.
He was on it.
We'll always love Hal Blaine.
You got to look him up and see who he played with.
Oh, yeah.
Remember he played what?
It's
he
a
played
veritable
with the Wrecking
who's
Crew,
who.
right?
Sure. Who didn't he play with?
No, but I met him. I went to a convention with Gregorico. We went down there, and he introduced me to Hal. And
he's a gem of a guy. He was a gem of a guy.
Yeah, he was very nice. I mean, he played on a lot of records that
hilarious.
That we had on our label. Yeah, labels.
Well, I imagine so.
Labels. Yeah.
So for our listeners, for those who are uninitiated, and we're getting ready to put up episode 465. Our episode number 8 was Denny Tedesco. So, and he was just wrapping up the last fundraiser for the Wrecking Crew film before he sold it to Magnolia Pictures.
I went to that.
In Fairfield at the
no, the one
college?
in Benicia.
Oh, yes, the one in Benicia.
Yeah.
So the one in Benicia happened, and then we went to, and he went around a few more places, and then the very last fundraiser, the one in Benicia was unique because that was the only fundraiser that had cheerleaders, and they had a cheer about the Wrecking Crew. Here's what's funny about that, Jeff. You know, I'm nowhere near a promoter like you are, but I did promote that event. And the first thing that we did was, because I knew Denny through his sister Desiree.
Right.
And before that, I had known Hal. So one night, I was getting my hair cut at this beauty shop downtown Benicia. I was getting my hair cut, and this woman was next to me getting her hair done, and she was talking about the Wrecking Crew. So my ears perk up. And then the guy who's dealing with her hair goes over to, I don't know, get some hot curlers or whatever. He was taking a break from being with her, and she's just sitting there by herself for a minute while he's prepping something. So I get in her business, and I go, "Hey, are you talking about the Wrecking Crew over there?" And she looked at me and said, "That's not what you think. You're probably thinking of the wrestlers or the," I don't know what she was saying, but evidently there's something else called the Wrecking Crew that has to do with something more masculine, I guess, than what she thought I was, whatever it was. And I said, "No, I'm talking about Hal Blaine and Tommy Tedesco.
Yeah.
And
Glenn
Glenn Campbell.
Leon Russell.
And Mike Melvoin. And
who's the bass player? The woman, Carol
Kay.
Okay.
And so she says, Tommy Tedesco was my dad. And I said, "Wow, the hell are you doing here?" So she introduced me to her brother. We got to know each other on email and stuff. And then I said, "Well, hey, if there's anything I can do about this film you're making, count me in, you know, just recruit me to do whatever needs to be done." So I went down to a screening in Santa Cruz where we met face to face for the first time. I met his mom, Carmi, and we had a great time. I said, "We got to bring this thing to Benicia. You know, Benicia will raise some money for you because your sister's a school teacher there, and, you know, this community will come together for you. Don't worry, we'll pack a house there." So I go to the band, of course, and say, "Hey, let us help you raise some money." Now, I raised baseball players, and the way that the baseball players raise money is that the coach gives the baseball players 10 tickets to something and says, "Here, your mom and dad will sell these or buy them from you."
And none of them sold.
And that's it. So that's just how that worked. That's a given. And football works the same way. Here, you got tickets, go sell them. I don't care if you don't sell them, eat them if you want, but this is $400 worth of tickets. Give us $400. And as a booster parent, you go, okay. And so we just told the band, "Hey, this movie is about the Wrecking Crew. Every single person in your band wants this content, and their parents want it, and everybody's going to love it." And the band said no. The band said they couldn't put that many people together to watch this movie, and they couldn't raise that money. And we said, "No, this is the ticket price is, you know, I don't know, $10, $20, whatever it was, and we'll split it with you." And they refused. They turned it down.
Oh, that's a shame.
And the cheerleaders were standing right behind him and said, "We'll do it." And they filled that place to capacity and wrote a cheer.
That music teacher should have said something. That music teacher should have.
That music teacher should have said yes.
Said yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's what that.
These kids didn't know who those artists were.
No, that music teacher should have said yes and failed. So I'm being critical, and I'm not typically critical of music teachers because I love music teachers. Music teachers changed my life. And they change lives every day. But that was an opportunity to put some money in the coffers of the music program, and they refused it, and it was silly. Anyway, enough about that.
No, that's funny because I went there because I brought in the Camp Basie Orchestra the legendary, world famous Count Basie Orchestra, and I brought them to the downtown theater, and I went to Benicia, the high school, you know, offered them tickets, you know. I said, "Come, just support us because it's really important." It worked out great as far as there were the schools that did show up.
Mm-hmm.
The guys in the band let the kids go up on stage, and they did question and answers right there and they'd ask the kid, "What instrument do you play?" And then they played a couple of songs for the kids.
Right.
And I'm telling you, those kids were just
mesmerized.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens.
That was really special.
You know what happens? I'll tell you guys, if you don't play an instrument and you were never a band geek, because I was, is you get exposed to something like that because you're playing an instrument and you think, well, this is what making music feels like, and you get the bug. And then somebody shows up and shows you what making music looks like when you've been doing it for 40 years. And you go, holy shit. That's what making music looks like. You know who did it for us when I was in high school was Woody Herman.
Oh, yeah.
Woody
sure.
Herman came.
The Herd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was ridiculous and made us just, blew our minds.
Well, there is a difference. You listen to there's a lot of great big bands, but there's only one Count Basie orchestra.
There's only one Count Basie orchestra.
When you hear it, we did a couple things over in Walnut Creek.
Yeah.
And man, to listen to them start off, you just know that's greatness.
Right.
And there's
From note one.
There's no superstars in that group. It's like all these guys are great players together. They'd come down and they do a solo, then they go back and sit down. And that's what I liked about it. It wasn't, an all-star, this guy, and then an all-star, that guy. It's everybody in the band, they played together just like.
And they're worth more than the sum of their parts.
Oh, boy. It was special.
Didn't Quincy Jones come from Count Basie Orchestra?
I'm not sure.
I want to say yes to that. It was either Count Basie or Duke Ellington. I think it was Count Basie.
Well, he was involved with the Ray Charles Genius Plus Soul project.
But that was after both of them were in the Count Basie Orchestra, wasn't it? I think. Somebody can watch the Quincy Jones documentary on Netflix and find that out. Go ahead and do that. That's a lot of fun. Anyway, let's talk about what you came here to talk about. You showed up here in a Malo hat, and I want to acknowledge that because I got an email this week from Jorge Santana, and I'm a big fan of his. So at some point in the near future, we're going to get Jorge Santana on the show. I'm going to make that commitment. I'd love to have him on. How is he? I've never met him.
Great guy.
Yeah.
No. He's very intelligent. He loves what he does, and he loves playing, even though he's Carlos's brother, you never talk about it.
Yeah.
He's just.
He's his own man.
Yeah, he's his own man. But I enjoyed spending time with him because he's, he asks a lot of questions about, we talk about what I do, not so much about what he does, and what he's done, because I signed the group when they came back from New York back in the late 80s.
Okay.
So, and then I was with Elektra when they started when they were signed on with Warner Brothers. Their album, it was really great. Their album, they sent out in burlap bags, little burlap. Everyone, it was great. It was.
What year was this?
Geez, I don't know, 73.
74, 73?
73, 74.
Yeah.
Malo,
man, what a great band.
Yeah, that Gloria Estefan kind of formed her rhythm section after listening to Malo.
Okay.
What was the name of her group?
Miami Sound Machine.
Miami Sound Machine. That was from Malo.
It was formed after Malo. Wow.
Yeah, they were like Santana Jr., but they were Santana with horns.
Well, everybody loves Santana, and I love Santana too. But the thing about Malo was they had a different kind of pop sensibility.
They had their own sound. They had great songs.
Yeah,
they had really great songs, and they were all good musicians. It was just different. It's just they came a little later after Santana, so it's tough shoes to fill or follow in.
Sure,
but no, they made it on their own.
Yeah,
and of course they had their own big hit with Suavecito.
Yeah,
Richard Bean, which is a classic,
bona fide classic.
Yeah, it's the Hispanic love song.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like Rick Stevens, "You're Still a Young Man."
Yeah,
it's like. There's certain songs.
It is one of those wedding classics.
Yeah.
I don't know how it is. I'm sure in every place where there are Latino communities, it is that. Because in the Bay Area, you go to a wedding and Suavecito will get played.
Oh, yeah.
It'll get danced to. And, it's just like the other wedding classics, Always and Forever. You're still a young man.
Etta James at last.
At last. Yeah, absolutely.
It's nice that, sometimes I wear the hat and I run into different bands and guys, Papa Joe Lucero. And every time he sees me, he plays Suavecito in the set, which is great.
Yeah.
It's such a great song. It's just
any band would give their left nut to have a song like Suavecito.
You better believe it. All it takes is one. Believe me, Richard's done very well with that song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So speaking of people with famous siblings, last week we had Juan Escovedo on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to talk about a guy with with a famous sibling, but also his own style and musical identity and track record and, great career. And on our episode, I think, shucks, it took us 40 minutes before we even mentioned Sheila. And she's one of my absolute favorites, but, everybody's got their own musical identity, man. And every once in a while you find somebody who's got an enormously famous sibling or something. And it's like, yeah, that's great. But there's a story right here.
Oh, yeah. He had a birthday last week and their place was packed on it.
Yeah. Did you go to that?
No, it was packed at
Yoshi's.
Yeah. But the funny, you mentioned.
On a Monday night.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was great. Yeah. I saw all kinds of people there. Larry Batiste was there,
Margarita Lopez was there.
All the usual suspects. He had Mio Flores and Tony Flores playing with him. He had his cousin Renee was playing with him. Leah Ticey, Ray Oviedo.
Now, I'm going to tell you how ironic that is. I just got off the phone with Ray Oviedo, and we're bringing Pete into the DeVille on the 27th of April.
Okay.
So, but it's Peter Michael. And I'm sure Juan's going to be there.
Yeah.
Ray Oviedo, Leah Ticey, and I put an offer in for Sheila.
Yeah.
We'll see.
How about Tony Lindsay?
Tony Lindsay's...
He was there that night, too.
Yeah, he's out of town that night. We might have Fred Ross.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be loaded. It's going to be loaded. But I had brought the Escovedo family into the DeVille about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And, man, it was packed. It
was
packed. It was so great. I wish she would have played the timbales. She was playing drums. But boy, when she plays, she only had one hit, but she is such an iconic.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
She's amazing. I always point people that if they don't know Sheila E. or if they think Sheila E. is a gimmick. I always say, here's what you do. Go on YouTube and look up David Letterman's drum solo week. He did it twice where he had drum solo every night to close out the show. And it'd be a different drummer and all greats. Neil Peart, Dennis Chambers, just the list of guys that he had. Everybody was absolutely spectacular. And then Sheila E. And I'll tell you what, she kicked most everybody's ass, at the very least, hung in there with anybody else. She didn't. And she wore a tiny little cocktail dress and high heels and played double bass with high heels and murdered. She's amazing. Here's my deal, Jeff. I'm going to ask a favor of you because I've been trying to get the Pops on this show for a year and a half. And every time I see him, I say, Pops, come on.
I bet he'll do it.
And he says, I'll do it.
Oh, I bet he'd do it.
But I can't get him on the telephone.
Well,
does he not check his voicemail? What's going on there? He doesn't recognize my number and he never picks up. And I know his phone rings off the hook, but I leave him a voicemail. He never calls me back.
Probably playing golf.
He might be playing
golf. Now, Pete's 83 now.
Yeah, I know. That's why I really want to get him. Because I'll tell you this, and I know you know this. Nobody has told his story correctly. And nobody in the press.
It's a fascinating story.
Nobody in the press loves him like I do. Yeah. I'll put that on anybody.
What a class act he is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. A class act and a foundation of Bay Area music that is, I won't say that I'd say among those who know, he certainly is appreciated. But not appreciated enough, if you ask me.
Well, he is by me. I mean, Pete, I had him out at Vino Godfather several times.
Yep.
And Jesus, more than several times. And it's just great. When Pete shows up, the people, the familia they come out of the woodwork, you know, and it makes no difference what color you are. They love it. I mean, it was just, that's the way Pete's got this incredible following.
Yeah.
And he doesn't play as much as he used to. People don't care as long as it's...
No, just show up.
He walks out and he's dressed impeccably.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what he does, because he does, when he plays something important. He's like the old man who lives in the mountain cave. Yeah. When he comes out and opens his mouth, you better listen.
Oh, yeah.
Because he may not say much, but whatever he says is going to be what needed to be said right then. And the other thing is, he makes everybody else on that stage play better just by showing up.
Yeah,
because he's there. You can't half step.
No, I love bringing in Pete wherever
Yeah.
And he's so just gracious to everybody. He's always nice.
Yep.
Everybody makes you feel like you've known him or he's known you for years.
Yeah.
Ray Obieto's the same way. These are musicians that get it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we had Pete the lounge down in Sassoon playing, and Pete's playing, and he's looking at the TV. He's watching the Warriors, and he's so cool about it. He goes, "I want to take a break right now, and come on up, Leah, and continue." He says, "I want to check out the score. I can't see it from the stage." Now that's cool.
Yeah, that guy oozes cool.
Yeah,
he oozes cool.
He's a sweetheart.
That was the last time I saw you up there at the lounge.
That probably was the last time.
That was
New Year's
That was
Eve.
a couple months. No. When did you have him there on New Year's Eve?
No, Papa Joe.
Oh, Papa Joe.
Papa Joe Lucero was on New Year's Eve.
So when I saw you last was when Pops was playing it at the lounge in Sassoon. And so it was there when I saw him and said, "Pops, come on, man. You've been saying you're going to come do this show. Come do this show." And I had talk with him, and then
I'll do what I can. Okay, I will.
No, listen. I know that all he needs is a nudge. I know all he needs is a nudge.
I remember the time.
He just needs the nudge. Please do that. It'll happen.
This is the kind of guy he is.
Uh-huh.
I did this fundraiser that I talked about before called Pink Fest.
Uh-huh.
It was the first one. Pete and Ray, all these guys donated their time. Rick Stevens, Skylar Dett showed up, Mick Gillette, Tom Pulitzer from Tower Power, Tony Lindsay. Okay? And we're in this lot in Fairfield on Texas Street. We had, 100 people there. They did, because this was the first year. And then all of a sudden, this little girl walks up and says, "Can I play?" And it was Gabby Wilson.
Oh, come on.
Yes, I told you this story. This was great. And Rick says, "Oh, you're the little girl that Jeff told me about." He says, "Yeah." He says, "Well, I don't know any of your songs." He says, "No, I want to play bass on What Is Hip." And here's Pete. Pete turned around and goes, "What did she say?
You want to do what?"
Yeah. So they did, they did a couple of Tower songs, and she sang, and they did What Is Hip, and they did, it was just great. And,
How old was she at the time?
About 15, maybe.
Wow.
14, 15.
And she wanted to play bass on What Is Hip.
Yeah. But it was.
She just won. What did she just win? She just won Grammy for.
She just won 2 Grammys.
2 of them even.
2 Grammys. I'm not exactly sure which ones they were. Maybe it was Best New R&B Song. But she has arrived.
Yeah, she's arrived.
She's big now. She's going to be bigger because this girl's got her head screwed on right.
Yeah.
She's written a ton of songs, and, she plays 4 instruments. She plays bass, lead guitar, drums, and keyboards.
Yeah.
And she got signed just after that to BMG Sony. And what they did was, Disney wanted her really bad.
Oh, I bet.
Oh, yeah, yeah. She's got that look because her mother is Filipino, her father is African-American, It's like,
yeah. She's exotic. She's beautiful.
She's beautiful.
Sings like a bird.
Oh, my God. Yeah. And
can play her behind off.
And what I liked about her was all she wanted to do was when I sat down with her, she wanted to talk about the greats, the Nina Simone, the Ella Fitzgerald, Dinah Washington, Aretha Franklin, the old Aretha before Respect.
Right.
And I'm saying, man, this is cool.
The old Aretha before Respect.
Oh,
when she was on CBS.
Yeah, she was on CBS. It was some great stuff,
Yeah.
And this is what she's put together in her music.
And as a teenager, she was aware of all of this great music.
And she wanted to know more. She was very inquisitive,
Wow.
It was, yeah. And,
she is something special.
Yeah, she is. And I'm so happy for her. I think this is great. You watch somebody, it's so hard to make it. It's just almost impossible. But Sony did the right thing. They tested records. And they didn't put anything out.
Kept her in the incubator.
Well, sort of, yeah. And then
nobody's developing artists like that anymore, I thought.
Well, they
did right by her.
They did the right thing, and it's amazing.
And they're about to cash in.
Oh, they're cashing in.
Yeah.
big time now. And, she's going to open up for Sting and Wilson.
Shaggy.
No, Wilson, from the Gap band.
Charlie Wilson.
Wow. So she's crossing right across the board,
Nah,
she's
no
very
kidding.
hip. She's got her own thing. They changed her name to HER, having everything revealed, and they put shades on her. But she's still hanging around with her grammar school buddies.
Yeah.
She's really grounded, and that's really important. Everybody's trying to get Snoop's hanging around and E40 and people like that. But she's got her own sense of
self and center.
Self, yes.
Yeah.
How she wants to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can just see how confident she is. It's like she comes out there with that guitar. It's like you're looking at Hendrix, and then all of a sudden you get behind the keyboards and it's Sly, and it's like, you just don't see that from too many artists. She's.
Yeah, that's true.
She, it's kind of a shame that a lot of kids today don't know who came before. Now, here's Gabby, who wanted to know about the greats.
Yeah.
Okay. And yet there's so many kids today that don't know who Donny Hathaway is.
Yep.
They don't know who
Curtis Mayfield,
Ray Charles,
mm-hmm.
Stevie Wonder, people like that. Someday they're going to forget who Michael Jackson is. They just don't have a sense of history. It's like, it's like ball players don't really know. There's very few of them that know who preceded them. They don't realize, they don't remember how great Jim Brown was.
Yeah.
Or Walter Payton. That comes, things, over time. They don't know who Bill Russell is. Come on.
Yeah.
They don't know who Wilt or Elgin Baylor or Oscar Robertson or how great they are. And it's the same thing with music. It's the same thing. They just don't, they don't take the time to know who was out there and set the pace.
Well, let's say this. Most of them don't. You can tell the ones who do.
Mm-hmm.
You can sure tell the ones who do.
Yeah. No, it's very important to know, who broke through for you.
Yeah. You can hear the depth. You can hear there's a way to tap into your soul through those artists who came before you that I think you can hear.
Especially I think the young African Americans, they should understand, they should realize, they should be so proud.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
Of the artists, the ball players that preceded, the ones that really,
kick the door in, really.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
They should be kneeling at the shrine of Jackie Robinson for,
making it possible.
And the way Bill Russell stood up for civil rights and people like that, and Jim Brown and Ali.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that never gets forgotten. Those are very important things for everybody.
I hope it doesn't too, but it does all too often.
That's life.
We're going to do what we can. What are you working on lately?
Oh my God.
What do you got coming up?
Besides Pete, I have Rat Pack Cooler, which is a tribute to the Rat Pack. And I got a tribute to Johnny Cash.
Now that's James Garner.
James Garner at the Downtown Theater.
Yeah, he's really good.
Yeah. And I have...
the nice thing about that, because every once in a while I stumble upon a tribute act, and there are those tribute acts that do a really good job at the mimicry. But James Garner has Johnny Cash's spirit and a voice that's his own.
Yeah, and he tells stories.
Yeah.
In between the songs, That's,
Yeah, that's a neat thing. There's a through line and a narration that goes with his show that helps connect the songs together. It's pretty cool.
No, that's very important. It's funny. I just had the Big Brother and the Holding Company.
Oh.
The two
remaining
members, Dave Getz and Peter Alvin.
Huh.
And Darby Gould was who did Janis Joplin to a T. She sang with the Starship. And she was great. And then they added two guitar players. And it was all this tie-dyed. And it was a throwback.
Brought you back.
Oh, yeah. It's like, Jesus. I grew up walking the streets on Haight Street on my way to the Panhandle, and to listen to Janice or that night go to the Avalon Ballroom and see her and see all the other acts that went in there. It was a special time.
Yeah.
Just a really special time. But it was great that, this is the 50th anniversary of Woodstock.
Wow.
This episode of the Break It Down Show is brought to you by Lions Rock Productions.
That's us.
We publish, evaluate, and develop podcasts just like this one, consult others to build their own, and create associated content and content marketing strategies.
So if you're launching or expanding your social media presence, your business or your personal brand, or if you just want to take your media presence to the next level,
reach out to us on Twitter
at Pete A. Turner
or at JohnLG69
at the Break It Down Show.
There's 1,000 ways to get a hold of us.
Now enjoy the show.
And see her and see all the other acts that went in there. It was a special time.
Yeah.
Just a really special time. But it was great that, this is the 50th anniversary of Woodstock.
Wow.
So
50th anniversary of Woodstock.
Yeah.
That's something.
Well, that's where Santana broke.
Yeah.
That was it. Bill Graham was asked to put on the event, and he says, yeah, if you allow my band from San Francisco here, Santana, to play.
Yeah. We brought Sly and the Family Stone out there too.
Well, Sly was...
Were they on the bill already?
I think they were. They went on at 4 in the morning.
They went on at 4 in the morning.
Yeah. It was...
To a zillion people.
To a zillion.
We had Sly on the show. He was our 100th episode.
I heard that. I heard it.
Yeah. He said he looked out at that sea of people and he had never seen anything like it.
Well, I don't think they ever seen anything like his group either.
Yeah, that's true.
And the same thing with Santana.
That's true.
Yep. I mean, you looked at...
There really is something to be said for Bay Area music, man. We had it figured out before everybody else.
Yeah.
I say we like I was around, but I mean, that's part of the magic of the Bay Area. You couldn't see integrated bands places.
No, not really. That really made it.
Yeah.
There was bands before that. Booker T's band was...
there was Booker T and the MGs. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. It was Johnson on... What's his name? On Johnson on bass. And then Booker. It was Steve Cropper.
Steve Cropper. And Donald Duck Dunn.
Yeah.
And, so...
Then you had...
that's true.
Then you had when Sly brought in... his sisters.
Yeah.
And he brought in Jerry Martini, who's a Hispanic, and he brought in Gregorico, who's an Italian, and man, he had that great bass player.
Yep.
Larry Graham. And Cynthia on trumpet. Oh my God. That was great. They used to come out to City College all the time.
Yeah.
And play. And then afterwards, Sly won a race because we both had XKEs. And except here's Sly. Sly had a purple XKE, and I had a gunmetal gray, and we get on 280, and we'd be shooting down there, and Sly had this big afro, and we go underneath this overpass, and there was a highway patrol. And we looked at each other, and I said, see you, man, because
the
road...
which one of the two of you was getting pulled over.
Well, yeah, because the highway split, and one went to San Jose, and I went downtown San Francisco.
Yeah.
And I seen the highway patrol going after Sly.
Wow. It's a good thing he lived, because I'm sure he had a 38 in his pocket.
Well, I hear that he had did you tell that story about the 38 in his pocket when he went to march with Martin Luther King?
Yes.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
But that's Sly.
Yeah.
That was Sly. You got to go check up those footage.
Man, that guy, you want to know what a rock star looks like. He had rock star charisma before we knew what it was.
Yeah, but he was a good guy.
Yeah.
He was a good guy. He was, he was a regular guy. And he used to come up when I was living in Wilt's place, and he used to come up there, and he'd climb all these 80-something stairs to get up there. And he says, man, this is what heaven looks like. It's like and we sit around and,
Did you know him from way back at KSOL?
Oh, yeah, KSOL, yeah.
Wow.
Well, I used to go see him at Mother's on Broadway Street. That was a little club there, and he did some work for a friend of mine, Tom Donahue, who started Underground Radio on KPX and KSAN, and Sly was his house producer. Produced Bobby Freeman, Do You Want to Dance, and The Swim, And then he produced Laugh Laugh for the Bo Brummels.
Huh.
Yeah. Sly was, man, I use this word a lot with him. He was a musical genius.
Yeah.
And he was right for the time.
Right for the time.
Yeah, it was incredible. It's like he was something special. You know, there was, like I said, there's always just a handful. You know, it's funny. So many musicians. You know, I thought Donnie's one of them.
Yeah.
You know, Stevie and Michael and Prince.
Yeah.
You know,
for sure.
You know, you have to. And Ray Charles.
Yeah.
Ray Charles changed music. You know, and he went from his R&B stuff was as good as it came, you know, got. And then all of a sudden now he's doing country songs.
Yeah.
You know, and for that to occur was
pretty substantial.
Oh, my God. How many people can go from, you know, from R&B like that and from what I say?
Yeah.
You know,
and the only way to do it is to be so capable at it that you're undeniable.
Yeah. I worked with Ray when he did the soundtrack to In the Heat of the Night. Quincy Jones was the producer of that. And it's funny because when they did the TV series, he said, no. You know, Ray was his own man. And Ray cut a deal with that never been done. He kept all his masters.
Yeah.
See? And they said, we'd never done that before.
See? Thank you, Ray, for allowing artists who all came after you, for kicking that door in.
That's why.
Because that's a big deal.
People need to know that. All musicians should give him credit for that, you know. It's like Kurt Flood, you know, people like that.
Yeah,
in a
he's
way.
the Kurt Flood.
But Ray did that soundtrack. And then when they did the movie, the TV series, Carol O'Connor was instead of Steiger, was the sheriff.
Rod Steiger. Yeah.
Yeah. So Ray says, you're going to have to pay me a lot of money to do that. So they said, we're not going to give it to you. So they got Bill Champlin from Sons of Champlin actually wound up doing
the TV show.
Yeah, doing the TV song. And we just had him over at Silverado. Carlos Reyes put together this great band, including Tony Lindsay and Chris Cole, you know, Chris Cole from Fairfield, who's a great singer, sounds like Al Jarreau. And he had all these great musicians, and he had Bill Champlin and his wife, and all of a sudden Bill breaks out In the Heat of the Night, and it's just, wow.
Yeah.
Chills.
Wow.
Yeah. Because Bill had this, you know, he was the lead singer for Chicago at the time. Yeah, it was Ray Charles I remember seeing him for the first time. I was on Broadway Street, and there was a place called Mr. D's opened up. And his manager's name was Joe Adams. I'll never forget this. I was standing in the back waiting, and here comes this beautiful looking 6'4" African American. And now, Mr. Ray Charles. And it was so cool, you know. And then, of course, Ray comes out with all in his glory. And it's like, Ray Charles has put on a show like nobody's business.
Wow.
Yeah, it was great. I was so lucky, man. I was hanging around Broadway Street, and Basin Street West would have everybody from, they bring in Four Tops. Then the next week they bring in Mary Wells. And then they'd mix it up, and they'd throw in Miles Davis. And Miles showed up one night with Jack DeJohnette, Chick Corea, Keith Jarrett, John McLaughlin. Oh man, it was
holy cow.
And he comes on stage, he does 2 minutes, walks off stage, and then his band plays for about 40 minutes, and then he comes back on stage and does another 2 minutes, and that was the end of the thing. And then that was great to see, you know, it was great. Then the next week, Ike and Tina Turner, in their peak of their
powers.
Of their power, when they were doing Proud Mary.
Oh, man.
Oh, my God. You know, it was a great time in San Francisco. You know?
Bet.
You know, it was just walk down the street, see George and Teddy at the Condor. They were like a household name in San Francisco. Carol Dodo was dancing, and then George and Teddy were doing their thing. And then you go across the street, and there was Bobby Freeman, and San Francisco was
hopping.
Yeah, and a lot of great clubs. A lot of jazz clubs at night, you know.
Yeah.
We used to go there and you couldn't drink after 2, but, you know, you have something under the table.
Hey, I'm going to have Leslie Ann Jones on the show next week. Do you know her?
No, I don't know.
She was the engineer at the Automat. Remember the Automat?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, she did a bunch of Herbie Hancock records and all kinds of stuff back then.
Yeah.
She's now running Skywalker Sound.
Really?
Yeah. And they just inducted her into the Audio Engineering Society Hall of Fame.
Wow.
So,
you know, it's funny talking about engineers. I was lucky. When I got hired by Blue Thumb Records, it was by Tommy LaPuma.
mm-hmm.
Great
May
producer.
rest in peace.
Yeah, just passed away a couple years ago. And
a couple years ago, he just passed away last year.
well,
Yeah.
Yeah, time flies,
Yeah.
you know. But Tommy was probably one of the tastiest producers. You know, he produced Streisand, he produced Dinah Krall, he produced Randy Crawford, he produced Dave Mason record, he produced Michael Franks, he had impeccable taste in picking songs for people and letting them do he did McCartney's, one of McCartney's last record.
Huh.
McCartney never let too many people
Yeah.
touch him, and he just loved Tommy. And getting to the point is the guy that worked with Tommy was Al Schmidt.
Yeah.
Al Schmidt worked with everybody.
Everybody.
Man, all
Frank
the way back
Sinatra.
to- oh, God. Well, he did the duets record, and he worked with Sam Cooke. He was with Sam Cooke the day he got shot. He's the one who's
No
really,
kidding.
yeah, and he's really responsible. We worked with Ellington.
Yeah.
He's won 30-something Grammys, but he's the one that was responsible for the putting together the duet between Natalie Cole and her father.
Right. Yes.
That was his
brainchild.
creation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Al's just got a new book called Behind the, oh God, what the heck is it?
Yeah. We just met him. Actually, I was texting you that day. We
Yeah.
met him down at the NAMM show. He gave me this little gem of wisdom. He said, here's one thing that you ought to know when you're engineering something. You know, when you look at the meter, there's a red area over there, you know, where that red part is. Don't go over there.
Yeah.
Don't let your needle go over there.
Yeah.
That was it. He used to just record everything wide open and raw.
Yeah.
And his only rule was get this thing as pure as you can, get the best sound that you can get coming in. Don't worry about post and all that business. Worry about that later. Get the best sound you can coming in, and don't let that needle go in the red. And I thought, this guy has 150 gold and platinum records under his belt.
Yeah.
And this is his
He
simple
was
secret.
the perfect partner for a guy like Tommy LaPuma.
Yeah.
They were
Just a catalyst for his
yeah,
ideas.
it was, you know, like Jordan and Pippen, you
Yeah.
know, or the Splash Brothers. No, but that's the way it is. I mean, he produced the first or one of the second or third Jefferson Airplane records. Bless Their Pointed Heads. And artists love working with him because they could trust him. You know, he let them do their thing.
Yeah.
You know, too many guys want to
He was an artistic
do
enabler.
too much.
Yeah.
You know, and he studied under guys like Tom Dowd and people like that, the true geniuses, you know. Yeah, people should read this book. It's fascinating. Just came out. Magic Behind the Music. Was that the name of it?
Maybe.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to try and get him on the show.
Oh, my. Yeah, listen, that would be not only a coup, but it would be your audience. It would be a absolute joy for them.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, it sure would.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can look up that doggone book.
You know, Al's 87 or 8 now.
Oh, for crying out loud.
No, really. This guy's got history like you wouldn't believe.
He is 88 years old.
88
Yeah.
years old.
In fact, he'll be 89 next month. How about this for associated acts? Sam Cooke, Frank Sinatra, George Benson, Barbra Streisand, Quincy Jones, Henry Mancini, Steely Dan,
Yeah.
Toto, Natalie Cole.
You know, Tommy LaPuma was the one who went to George Benson and said, I've heard your voice. I think you can sing.
Aha.
And they took Masquerade.
Yeah, they took
which,
Masquerade.
Yeah. And because at Blue Thumb, we signed Leon Russell.
Uh-huh.
And then I think his second record he put out had Masquerade on it. Tommy loved that song. And so we got George.
And was Masquerade a Leon Russell song?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wrote it. Yeah.
Okay.
It's funny because I always look for albums to try to boost the sales. I take advantage of when there's a hit.
Yeah.
See, I did this first with George Benson. He had 2 records on Verve. So I had him take the strings out and make it 1 record set, put a new cover on it. And took advantage of what Tommy was doing with his record. We sold 200,000 records.
Wow.
Yeah. And I did the same with B.B. King, Live at the Regal, which is one of the best live albums you ever want to hear. And it's just so raw and so great. And I said to the label, I said, just put a new cover on it. And they sold a couple 100,000 records too.
Wow.
I had fun. It's like not only was I promoting records and looking for groups and stuff like that, but I don't know. I listened to a lot of music and I read the liner notes, like that. It was,
see who's doing what.
Yeah. And you learn a lot of things and then you come up with ideas on marketing and stuff like that.
I didn't know Leon Russell wrote Masquerade. It makes perfect sense though.
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever hear the story of Steve Lukather and Jay Graydon? Jay Graydon and Steve Lukather wrote Turn Your Love Around. And while they were writing it, they were, just kind of working their way through it. And they just couldn't come up with the hook. And then Jay Graydon excused himself to go to the bathroom. And he came up with the hook while he was sitting on the throne. And it was perfect. So he started singing it from in the bathroom across the house. And he would just... He would just sing it really loud so Lukather could hear him and work his way through the chorus from the bathroom. You got to rope the magic in when it happens.
Oh, yeah. I talked about last time about my friend Mickey Newberry. And he was living on a houseboat in Nashville with Christofferson.
Yeah.
And Christofferson said he'd come home and, Mickey was working on this album called Looks Like Rain, which to me is one of the great albums of all time. You listen to the songs on there, it's absolutely a masterpiece. In fact, Mercury Records is who we recorded for, and the president of the company went, "What is this shit?" Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah.
He said, "What is this?" So Mickey turned around and bought the album back and put it out himself. And it's, it's this way. It's like when Motown, when Marvin did What's Going On.
Yeah.
Same thing. But Christofferson used to come home and he said, Mickey was driving crazy trying to put this album together,
Yeah.
He used a lot of sound effects in there from I forgot the name of the group. Anyway, he said he credited Mickey for supporting him. He says he never would have wrote Me and Bobby McGee because the way that Mickey, structured his songs and would talk to Christofferson about it. A Sunday morning, was just coming up, whatever it was. He says, I never would have done that if I hadn't sat around. And Mickey just got his confidence because he was, he's a fledgling songwriter,
Yeah.
But man.
Well, Chris Christofferson was a janitor. He just wanted to work in a recording studio doing something, anything, because he knew that there was something in there. And he would take whatever job they would give him. And the first thing that they said was, well, how about you sweep up the place and dump the ashtrays? And he was willing to do that. And he just kept being around. And then he'd learn things from guys like Mickey Newberry.
Yeah.
And he'd just try to be a student of the game.
That's like David Geffen.
Mm-hmm.
David Geffen worked in the back room some record company, and he listened and he learned.
Yeah.
And he wound up one of the most powerful people in the music business.
No, absolutely. In all of entertainment. He was, a couple years ago, he had the distinction of being the American who paid the most income tax. And just, he did it freely. He was like, yeah, I'm going to pay my share.
I made him a lot of money.
Yeah.
I broke Help Me by Joni Mitchell.
Huh.
And
no kidding.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
No, they put the record out, and the record...
That was a very special record, man.
It didn't sound, when I first heard it didn't sound like a hit, but it was put together just brilliantly. And I took it to the radio station San Francisco, and the guy says, "Oh, she's a folk artist." I says, "So what?" He says, "There's 10 major markets in the country where the single is a hit." And I brought him the sales figures. He said, no promotion guy's ever done that before. I said, see what I mean? He goes, people are buying the single. They're buying the song.
Yeah.
They're sticking their hand in their pocket and they're pulling out 99 or whatever it was cents, and they're buying one song. That means that's a hit.
Yep.
See? So he says, okay, so we put the record on. He didn't have a bullet, which is usually the death knell to a single for a while.
Yeah.
It's just an excuse not to play it.
Right.
So the record exploded.
But he hung in there with it.
Yeah, and it broke out of San Francisco, and it went all these major stations because of that. And the album went from 500,000 to 5-6 million in a matter of months. That's what getting a record on the radio was worth. And I was sitting in my house in Mill Valley, and I get a phone call. My roommate goes, "This guy says it's Dave. His name is David Geffen. Dave Geffen. David Geffen." And I go, "Give me the phone, would you?" And I hear this voice going, "Hi, this is David Geffen." I said, "I want to thank you for breaking that record." And I said, "Wow, this is cool. I've never had the president of a record company, let alone somebody of the stature of David Geffen.
Yeah, pick up the phone and just call you and say thanks.
And say thank you. Yeah. You know, I was so impressed by that.
Huh.
You know,
there's not too many people out there saying anything unkind about David Geffen.
No, but he appreciated, because he came from the back room and he worked his way up.
He knows how hard you got to work.
You know, it was nice. And it was funny. It was ironic that the next single was called Free Man in Paris, which was about him and Joni Mitchell going to Paris.
Yeah.
Free Man, the man behind the star-making machine.
Huh.
And that's who David Geffen. So David wanted that single to be a hit too, but it really wasn't a hit.
Yeah.
And I got a call from the vice president of the company, and he says, "How come it's not on KFRC?" And I said, "Because it ain't a hit.
Yeah.
It's not really a hit. Help Me was a hit." And he goes, "Well, you shouldn't be A&R in the records and making." I said, "Don't tell me how to promote San Francisco." I says, "It's not a hit. Okay, what do you want me to lie to you?" And next week, I got fired. They said you can't talk to the guy. The guy's the vice president.
Yeah.
So that's how fragile, it was. You're only as good as the last hit you work sometimes.
Literally the last one, yeah.
If I owned a record company, it'd be a different story, but I worked for them.
Yes.
And you
couldn't tell them, "No, I don't want to do this one."
Wasn't a hit.
Or you have to be tactful.
It was a great album track, but it wasn't a hit single.
Yeah.
There's a big difference.
Right.
But it broke her.
Yep.
It changed her status from a folk artist to a pop artist.
Yep.
Then she could do anything she wanted. Once you have that one hit,
yeah,
then you
can reach around.
Then you can do, a whole bunch of stuff. The next album she did called Miles of Isles with Robin Ford on guitar. And they did this incredible back and forth.
Boy, did she have band. She always had a band. She had Jocko.
Yeah. And, the band that played on Court and Spark was Tom Scott's L.A. Express.
Man.
And it's funny because I met him when Count Basie was doing an album in Los Angeles. He was playing on the session. And I went out and I introduced myself, and I says, I broke Help Me. He goes, "Oh, man.
Thank you.
Thank you. Made me a lot of money."
Yeah.
I said, I got fired on the next song. I told him the story. He thought it was great.
Yeah.
But Joni was great. She was special.
Yeah.
I was lucky to work with a lot of special, working with Linda Ronstadt.
Yeah.
God, how good was she?
No kidding.
Man.
I
worked with Pavarotti. I worked with Curtis Mayfield. I worked with James Brown. Just lucky.
Yeah.
Like I said, if you got a good team,
you got the horsepower.
You got the horsepower.
Let's button this up by talking about what you got coming up next. Say again what you're promoting in the very near future. You got the Escovedo's coming.
Yeah.
To where are they coming?
Well, they're coming to the DeVille.
The DeVille.
And then at the Downtown Theater, I have comedy. I do a lot of comedy there.
Okay.
And I'm doing...
Let's bring some comedians on. Who do you got coming up?
I can bring you Rocky Laporte.
I love Rocky Laporte. That guy's hilarious.
Yeah. Rocky Laporte, I get you Rocky.
Yeah.
There's a couple of... Jeff Applebaum's really funny, too. He's in the group that I'm bringing called the Rat Pack.
Uh-huh.
He does Joey Bishop.
Okay.
He looks like Joey Bishop. He's funnier now, and he sounds like Joey Bishop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who else you got coming?
Well, I got, like I said, I got the James Garner and the tribute to Johnny Cash.
Yep.
I got a whole bunch of stuff. I just, it's just.
Hey, did you promote that it was an event at the Empress? It was a tribute to Luther. No.
But I was really fortunate. Last year alone, I did the Count Basie Orchestra.
Yeah.
Confunction was before that. I brought in the Delphonics, the Ohio Players, and then Lakeside.
Wow.
That stuff was...
Yeah, what a show.
Yeah, all those are great shows. It's all about songs anyway, and we had great crowds. And I love doing that because I worked with so many good R&B bands, Ray Goodman and Brown, Bar-Kays, and Peaches and Herb.
Oh, but the Bar-Kays, man.
Gap Band.
You want to talk about unsung. The Bar-Kays go so deep. I mean, really, as much as Confunction is beloved around here, the Bar-Kays really trained Confunction.
Yeah. Cameo.
Yeah, Cameo.
Kool and the Gang.
Uh-huh.
Kool and the Gang. I worked with the Bee Gees, man. I mean, the Bee Gees were great,
Yeah.
It's great to be able to work with groups like that.
Yep.
Just
really making good music.
Yeah.
So for our listeners, you're going to go to the Downtown Theater in Fairfield, California. You're going to see a bunch of great acts, great musical acts, great comedy acts. Go to Sticky Rice. Fellas, take your lady to
Saturday
Sticky
night.
Rice on Saturday nights.
Go
you
up
do
to
Sunday afternoon jazz there too? Especially now in the springtime.
Yeah. We'll be doing that again. And DeVille is, I'm doing the shows, especially if you want to dance.
Yeah.
They got a great dance floor.
Yep.
It's a beautiful venue.
Come see the Escovedos at DeVille. You will not be sorry.
Yeah.
That'll be an amazing night. You'll be glad you came.
I'll find some place to put on some. I don't care if it's on the corner of Texas and,
And people will gather and they will listen. And then starting this summer, the small stage at the Solano County Fair, and then you'll be taking that over before we know it. In no time, they'll come to their senses and realize that big stage is over there and you're over here.
Oh man, bring it on! I would love to do that.
Yeah.
That would be really something.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. I mean, look, I'm 70. I'll be 76 in June, and I'm just having a great time.
Yeah.
I mean, there's,
Well, you're showing everybody else a great time too, and
it's a pleasure. The other night, all I want. I was in the lobby, and the guy walked up to me, and he goes, "Man, thanks for bringing this music here."
Yeah.
I felt so good, man. I just went, wow.
It's important. It's it's a lot of fun. It's very special, and it's very important.
And after 51 years, man, I still have that excitement. To when people get up and give people standing ovations and stuff like that. Anyway, it's been a dream, not a dream. It's been great,
and it's still happening.
I've lived a dream.
There we go. Jeff Trager.